Disaster nearly struck for Primož Roglič on stage 2 of the Vuelta, as well as a lead-out and sprint for Arnaud Démare that FDJ will want to forget. This was the first sprint stage, and yeah, it's different. Vuelta having just a straightforward, theoretically, sprint stage on the Sunday on the second stage. There were no categorized climbs. There was a threat of crosswinds that never really eventuated, and there were bonus seconds, 3, 2, 1 available with 16 Ks to go before a pretty straightforward run into the finish. Favourites to the stage, Arnaud Démare, Fabio Jakobsen on Deceuninck Quickstep, as well as Jasper Philipsen, who won a stage at the Vuelta last year. For Primož Roglič, it'll be a matter of just staying safe. Tom Pidcock meeting Richard Carapaz for the first time. Heartwarming scenes before they exited the neutral zone, and we had the predictable break with 3 Spanish Pro Conti teams getting the break with Asparen, Martin and Rubio on a hot day, and it was FDJ Quickstep with Cherney. Cherney's doing the Tim de Klerk role, it seems, at this Vuelta for Quickstep, keeping the break in check, letting go to 2:25, and then it started to come down a little bit with 70 Ks to go, which was due to GC team nervousness about the prospect of crosswinds. So it wasn't the fact that they were really chasing the break, it was just all the GC teams trying to stay in front, brought that gap down as low as like 25 seconds, before they realised the crosswinds weren't really strong enough, and everyone eased off the gas, and it went back to the sprinters teams, UAE, FDJ, and Deceuninck controlling again, letting that gap go back out to 43 seconds and over a minute. And at that point, I had a 45-minute siesta, so now you're listening to someone commentating on an event that they were literally sleeping through. So what does that make you? It makes you someone who should like the video down below and subscribe to the channel to help me out. The break started to disintegrate with Rubio, I think, going for the combativity prize. That gets you on the podium at the end of the day, so a worthwhile goal for Burgos, before Astana started to lead out Arambaru in the green points jersey for those bonus seconds. They wanted to get him as many bonus seconds as possible. He's only 6 seconds behind Roglič, and then if he podiumed the final sprint, he'd be able to take the red jersey. Jakobsen took 3 seconds, Arambaru only 2, before the run into the line, nervousness, the GC teams coming to the front with Tratnik, and already we're maybe seeing a problem for Bahrain Victorious, who have 1 climber too many. In the run-in, they're leaning heavily on Tratnik and Arashiro, and then they're trying to get Mark Padun to pull on the flat, and he really wasn't able to pull it all, and they lost positions when he did, and I think Gino Maida had to chip in before Primož Roglič. I wasn't exaggerating, he was so close to going down in this crash. Here you can see him in the red jersey. He's got 3 Jumbo-Visma teammates to his left, 2 behind him. We are not over the 3 kilometer to go marker yet. So if you are caught behind a crash here, you will lose time. And in front of him, I think Fraile and a couple of Movistar riders pinch each other, which causes Jordi Meus and Gamper to go down on Bora Hansgrohe, and Roglič just manages to avoid it. He'd been laying off a little bit. When we zoom in, there's a pocket, but he starts to go towards that pocket. Maybe that's because people were slowing down in front of him, but he was already starting to go right, and he just ducks out to the left of it. Unfortunately, Jack Haig caught up in that crash. You can see him, the tall figure, standing up. He didn't go down, and Adam Yates as well was caught up. Yates, Carthy, and Haig would lose between 30 and 38 seconds because this isn't after the 3 kilometer to go mark, but I think they're all okay. But just like in the Tour Crash Stage 3, we hate to see riders going down. Jordi Meus, who I think was going for the sprint today for Bora Hansgrohe, down, looking a little bit banged up, as well as reported that Alexander Cataford banged up for Israel Startup Nation. And once again, GC gaps of 30 seconds are being decided pretty much by luck. Not many teams actually had a full train set up properly. Quickstep started to pin it. There was no chance they would get back. Let's shift our focus now to the FDJ train and sort of the problems they had. Arnaud Démare is already separated from it here. There's UAE rider between him and his train. Quickstepper on the right-hand side, set up nicely. They're sort of mixed together with Alpecin. So Arnaud Démare is going to get squeezed a little bit. He's going to have to sprint with 900 meters to go. Sam Bennett did this in one of his stage wins, I think, earlier this year, but Démare has to sprint back to his train and even go around the third last man on FDJ, makes it harder for him. And now Démare's last man realizes that Démare's not on the wheel. He then lays off the second last man's wheel to wait for Arnaud Démare. Démare gets back to his wheel. He's on the left of the Euskaltel rider, and then that lead-out man, his last man, runs out of steam, looks under his shoulder, sees Démare is there, gives him about 2 more seconds of a pull trying to get him back to his last man's wheel, or second last man's wheel. He gets touched by, I think, Oliveira, flicks Démare, if you can see, with his right elbow, but Démare has his wheel on the left-hand side of him, and so when he drifts out left, De Mar's now drifted all the way to the left. He's in no man's land. He can't slot in. You see there's that spot behind the UAE rider and the Euskaltel rider who'd yielded that wheel, but now he's in no man's land. He has to sprint into the wind again with like 600 meters to go. Let's now shift our focus to this UAE man, Oliveira, who would have provided the perfect pull for Arnaud de Mar, because Quick-Step are a bit disjointed. They've got Seneschal on the front, but they're not set up. It's not this Rolls-Royce deluxe service like we saw Paris Stage 5, anything but. It's Seneschal with like 600 to go, and Bert van Leeuwenberger isn't really able to help Jakobsen at all. So UAE and Bike Exchange, who've been sitting in, go on the left-hand side of the road as they look at it and begin their own train. Oliveira giving Trentin a nice pull before Trentin smoothly accelerates for Milano. Luca Mez gets 5th on Champs-Élysées, I believe, for Bike Exchange. He's a quick sprinter in his own right. Looks back to see is Matthews on his wheel, brings him up quickly, and Albertson's lead-out man just wasn't able to have the juice to compete with Trentin and Mezget's lead out, and Philipsen had to, and he smartly did, switched off straight onto Matthews' wheel. He took Arambarou off that wheel. That saved Philipsen's sprint, that split-second decision to switch off onto the UA train. Milano kicks with 175 meters to go. Philipsen and Jakobsen, who'd been both fighting either side of Matthews' wheel, go in opposite directions of the road. Jakobsen has to go the long way around Matthews, whilst Philipsen went the quickest line on the barriers and takes his second Vuelta win in 2 years. He got the slingshot off Milano's draft, and you can see how wide Jakobsen had to go in even the space of 50 meters. Not doing my trigonometry class again today. My calculator isn't working in the heat right now. But a huge win for Jasper Philipsen. Disappointed in the Tour de France, but Alpecin just keep winning Grand Tour stages. They've won stages in all 3 Grand Tours, and he did it actually easy. Perfect timing from the young Belgian. Ahead of Jakobsen, Matthews, Milano, Arambarou, Aberasturi, Martin Last, good result from him. Martin Last, Manali, Vermeersch, and Alaguert. Primož Roglič keeps the red jersey. He'll have it tomorrow, and then Arambarou will obviously lose more time tomorrow as well. Tomorrow's stage is the first GC test. Well, it should be up Picon Blanco. It's pretty flat for the 203 kilometers. Before the final climb, there's like a 2K 6% warm-up climb before Picon Blanco, which is the real test, around 7Ks at 9%. With Adam Yates now over a minute behind Primož Roglič, are we going to see UAE Jebel Hafid, a similar stage profile, similar hot, dry conditions? Are we going to see that Adam Yates again, who also won Catalunya? He did. Go back and look at Koos' numbers when Yates dropped him. He did crazy watts per kilo on Jebel Hafid, putting Pogačar under pressure. Maybe we'll see him attack early on the steeper early sections of Picon Blanco. Roglič will rightly be the favourite for the stage, but unless Yates or Padun go nuclear, there should actually be relatively small GC gaps on this finish. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Like it down below if you did. I always get nervous during these sprint stages when there's that anxious run into the last 3 kilometers. But anyway, I'll see you with a stage recap tomorrow.